Okay, so in front of me we have our basic ingredients for mixing up our hardwood loving fruiting bags. And here's our mixing station, our mixer, and we've got a little prep station table over here as well. So I'm going to refer to a recipe that we've been using. This is our hardwood recipe for making 8 fruiting bags, which will come out at a total of about a little over 5 pounds. So we got to get our ingredients together and all of our different tools and equipment. That's all right here. So I'll get that all together and then we'll get started. Okay, so we're at our watering station here. We've got our RO filter hooked up into our reservoir, and the reservoir has some air stones just keeping the water nice and fresh. So what we're gonna do is weigh out the water that we need for our recipe today. We're doing 8 bags to start, so we need 17 pounds, just over 17 pounds of water. Okay, so I have the camera set up just so you can get a better view of what's going on here. Basically, in the back on top of this bucket, I have a switch and it's connected to a pump inside of our reservoir. So I'm just gonna pump some water out, weigh it out right here to that 17 pounds, and then we'll get going from there. Okay, so I went a bit over, but not to worry. After a quick adjustment, just took a little bit of water out, and we're sitting perfectly at our 17-pound mark. So now we're gonna take our water over to our mixing station, and we're gonna prepare our dry ingredients. Okay, so referring back to our recipe here, we're gonna start with 28 pounds and 12 ounces of our oak soy hardwood blend. And that is right over here. So what I like to do is I take a 5-gallon bucket, get our scale, both these scales are good, but that one's nice and clean, so we'll use this one. Weighing out the sawdust can get a little dusty, so you either want to do it in a well-ventilated area, wear a mask, or put a little water on there, and that will help mitigate any of that dust. So we've got our fast fruiting mix. 1 partial bag. Okay. These are 20-pound bags. We're going for 28 pounds, 12 ounces. You can see at the bottom of this bag, it starts to get real dusty, but we're working with these hardwood pellets here. Get that. Get a better look at these pellets. And these are dry, so we're gonna need to rehydrate these. There's 28 pounds. Bucket is extremely full. Okay, now that that's dealt with, we just need to get the rest of our dry ingredients. So I'm gonna just dump these in here. These are going anyways. Next is gonna be our oat bran. And this just adds nutrition to the substrate. Also very dusty. Okay, so we're going to tear our scale again. Oat bran, we're looking for 15 ounces. And then we're going to do 4.2 ounces of gypsum. We'll use the larger bowl. So now we have our water and our dry ingredients prepared. So we've got our hardwood sawdust pellets, we've got our oak bran, and our gypsum powder. Now, there are a couple different ways to go about this. Personally, I prefer to do this. Add my gypsum to my oak bran. Like so. Incorporate it into the oak bran. Like that. Okay. Now what I'll do, just a little bit. Sometimes these little plastic bits from the bag get in there, and it's kind of inevitable. We've had plenty of blocks grow with no issue with these being in there, so we try to pick them out when we can. So we'll be adding the water kind of continuously through the whole process. So I'm gonna set the camera up, get the mixer going, add a little bit of water, and then I'll bring you back over there to get a good look at what's going on. Okay, so you can see the tumbler turning over all of these dry pellets. I'm gonna start incorporating water in slowly, and then once I have a good, decent baseline moisture content, I'll start adding in the rest of the dry ingredients, and then I'll add the rest of the water. So it's kind of you're rotating, you know, you're going through each ingredient, adding a little bit at a time, and just getting everything nice and homogenized and thoroughly mixed. This mixer does have a tendency to collect water more towards the back, so what I'll do is stop it at some point and just kind of mix the substrate up, get everything nice and evenly blended, and that way we have a good substrate for our mushrooms. So you can sort of see right away, and it might not come through in the video, but the substrate immediately gets darker, and it starts to break down into more of a powder, like you can see here. These pellets, they soak up water extremely quickly, and turn right into sawdust, as you can see. And that's great because we don't have to use a whole lot of water, which mushrooms, when they're in the bags, they can suffocate if there's too much moisture. So having the right amount of moisture in your substrate is super important. We basically just want to get these hydrated enough to where they're not hard, dry clumps. Rather, they're going to feel a little bit more like a damp soil. Okay, so all the oats and the gypsum are gone. Okay, so now that all the ingredients have been incorporated into the mixer, I like to leave it running for a while, 20 minutes or so. Really just depends on how well and how evenly everything has broken up. But again, at some point I will stop it, go through, mix it with my hand, make sure everything from the back is pulled forward, and we'll go from there. All right, now that we've successfully completed our substrate, the next step is to prepare our grow bags. So I'll give you a quick demonstration of what we do. You can see here, this is a high density polyethylene bag. It's heat resistant, and what we'll do is take the substrate that we prepared, fill these bags up with 5 pounds. Our batch was to make 8 5-pound bags, so we'll do 8 of these per batch. We fill up 5 pounds of our substrate into the bag. Then we'll go ahead and heat seal it with our impulse sealer here. Once it's filled up, it'll look something like this older one that I have here for an example. So we're gonna fill it up to about 5 pounds. Then we'll seal it. It goes into the pressure pot, or you'll use a larger sterilizer or autoclave unit for more bags at once. These pots have worked well for us. We can do 3 bags per pot, run multiple pots at one time, and do some pretty decent batches. So we'll run the pressure pot at 15 PSI for about 2.5 hours with the 3 bags that are in there. And once that's done, you'll have a nice sterile bag. As I mentioned, this is an old example, but this one was actually sterilized back in July of 2025. So it's been sitting for about 8 months already, and there's no signs of bacterial growth, anything nasty. It's perfectly clean in there. So that goes to show that our sterilization process is working well. And that would be the final step with our grow bags. All the substrate that we prepare is going to go through the same process, goes into a bag, gets sterilized, and then from this point forward, we're able to take it to our lab space where we can open it up under a laminar flow hood and inoculate it with our mycelium. There's a lot of different varieties. We typically do grain spawn, but there's also liquid culture, and you can even inoculate with little slices right off of an agar plate. But that's to be saved for another video. So if you enjoyed this one, please give us a like, give us a comment, and subscribe for more.